All right, we are recording. So Bob, you can kick off the meeting and then we can move into the projects. We're going to go with the Paddock Point project first. So if you're here for the second project, Evergreen Reserve, could you please just make sure you're muted and just hang out until after Paddock Point is completed, and then we'll kick off your project. So Bob, it's all yours.
Okay, so I apologize for being late. I'm just negligent. Anyway, so the first thing we want to do is to have some introductions, and then we'll introduce ourselves, and then you get about 10, 15 minutes to present your project. Then we'll have some question and answer period, and then we'll opine on it. And so the floor is whoever is up first.
Are you talking about our DAP panel? Is that our introduction start first, or?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
DAP panel
All
introductions.
right. Well, I'll go first. I'm Larry Quarrick. I'm a landscape architect.
Okay, I'm Bob Gorman. I'm a landscape architect and planner.
Kelly Hollenbeck, architect.
Dan Lovett, civil engineer.
Okay,
So from the development side, I'm Rob Vogel, civil engineer for the project.
On the builder side, I am Bobby Thompson, the Director of Operations for Beazer, Maryland.
I'm Rebecca Rosales. I'm with the builder. I am the Director of Planning and Design for Beazer Homes, Maryland.
okay, so go ahead and make your presentation.
Absolutely.
Did you want Nick to or Anthony to give a introduction, or
Nope, we can let the team go through their presentation, and then Nick can do a quick staff report after they're done.
Okay.
All good on the screen share?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So again, my name's Rob Vogel, civil engineer. Hope everybody's doing well and we're ready to go here. So this is Paddock Point, which was once known as Laurel Park Station. Paddock Point is been before you for every phase: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. All phases were previously approved, and all phases have approved site development plans. We are back on phase 3 to present actually the removal of 3 small apartment buildings that were previously approved on phase 3 and substituting in more of the other product, which was the 2/2 unit. All the rest of phase 3 that you previously had seen and was approved remains exactly the same, no change. So we're not going to bore you or burden you with reviewing the same fitness park and amenities and things that we presented previously. We're really here to focus just on the substitution of these areas. So for those, this is Laurel Park Station / Paddock Point. It's outlined in red. It is east of Route 1, north of the Patuxent River, and it is west of the railroad, which is the MARC train. That is the Camden line, which is also the county line between Howard County and Anne Arundel County. The Laurel Park and the track, clubhouse, etc., is on the Anne Arundel County side of the line. This is Paddock Point, as these are all the sections that you previously have seen and approved. Laurel Park Boulevard, this area is phase 1. This is the offsite trailer park. This is phase 2 apartment building that you've seen previously and approved. This is the phase 4, which is an apartment building previously approved. And outlined here with the bold dashes is phase 3, which is the subject of of this visit. This is a fairly recent aerial view. The railroad is again the county line and the property line for that matter. You'll see the townhouses in the background there. Those are constructed. That was our phase 1. Behind those, you'll actually see 4 apartment buildings, 2 to the left, 2 to the right, stacked 2 over 2 units in the foreground and the apartment buildings in the rear. And we've outlined on here more or less where the phase 3 falls in context to what's out there. Again, outlined in bold is the phase 3 forest conservation area to the rear, or family fit park that you previously saw and approved at this location. We are focusing on what was building 7, which is down here where my cursor is, and the 2 buildings that are up here where my cursor is on Sir Barton Way. This is basically the same view as what you saw before, but now we've substituted in the replacement building, which are the stacked towns in lieu of that apartment building on what's called Justify Run, and the substitution for the 2 over 2 units for those 2 apartment buildings up off Sir Barton Way. And we'll zero in on this a little bit more, but an alley for the backload of those units, and another alley up here for the backload of those units. Down below, we have the alley running behind these units. If you compare the previous, one improvement that I'd like to point out also is it's nice that this alley now connects. It's it goes through. It's not so disjointed as it was. So flipping, this was the previously approved plan, new plan. We have the alley being continuous, and we have the parallel parking back there. I just think that's really an enhancement from what it was. Again, this was the previous apartment building that we're substituting for. That is, the railroad would be down toward the bottom of the screen, Justify Run to above it. These are the 2 buildings we're removing that were previously approved on Sir Barton Way. And here is, the lines didn't show up between the buildings as well as it should have, but these are the new 2 over 2 units on Justify Run. Here's the alley that I was just speaking of that connects. We have some bio retention behind here. We have some nice parallel parking to serve these units. And obviously the fronts of these new or proposed 2 over 2s will face the fronts of the other 2 over 2s that were previously approved. Again, the other area here is the proposed alleys for the rear loads, fronts facing fronts. As far as a little bit of additional amenity area, because we've changed unit types, we were able to increase green space, which is nice, increase our landscaping, because we don't have a building and just parking lots. And with that, we have a little bit of a common walkway down to a little bit of a circle patio seating area that would be at the terminus of that little walkway. And so we have a little bit more amenity for changing the product type. By the way, we lost units. So we changed unit type, but there was also a loss of a few units to accomplish this. Again, the rears facing rears, fronts facing fronts of this new area. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the Beazer team. They can speak to the architecture, and I'll turn that over to either Bobby or Beck.
Thank you, Rob.
Or are you taking this, Bobby?
Yep, and just to do a quick overview, and I think for the Q&A side, Beck, If there are any questions, then we can dive into the architectural piece. Just not to belabor the point, we took great strides to make sure that the elevations and the product type matched and blended extremely well with the previously approved product type that's currently on site. Here on the slide deck, you see our renderings, our approved renderings from where we are at and what we are targeting to put into the community. The major differences are bulletized. We're transitioning from a flat TPO roof to a gabled roof with asphalt shingle for the warrantability and quality of the build and durability of the build. We are changing some of the elevation material types to align better with the Beazer program. Essentially, again, we go to a more warrantability and durability side of things. We are doing a masonry, synthetic board, and vinyl vertical board for accents in lieu of the previous board and batten that is currently installed, but the aesthetic will have the same appeal. For the entryway and window canopies, we are changing from a turnbuckle support system to a corbelled support system, but it will still be standing seam, so it'll integrate extremely well with what's currently there. And from a landscape side of things, what we are doing with our landscape packaging is that per strip, we're doing 2 flowering corner plants, 6 evergreen foundation shrubs, 3 accent shrubs, 7 deciduous shrubs, and 10 ground cover grasses. That's in that terminus that Rob had outlined previously. And obviously the species, the specimen list is based on the yard and the season that the installs are going in. But that's going to be outlined in the entire terminus in the green space. And then when we talk through any of the other improvements, say to the rear improvements, it's going to be the same deck that's currently installed and the same rear railing. The only real benefit from doing any of the changes in the rear is that you're not going to get the same amount of water flow that you're currently getting in the other product, as all of those are draining to the rear off the flat roofs, and we're actually spreading out the groundwater coverage and the drainage with our gabled roof. And thank you, Rob, for cycling through the elevation and the color selections.
So these at the request of Nick and Planning and Zoning and for Bob, these are the plant materials that were utilized so far in the Paddock Point project, and for consistency, these plantings are perpetuated in phase 3, and will be integrated into the those new 3 areas that are subject of this meeting. We will provide DAP with a final landscape plan, although there is already a final landscape plan because phase 3 site plan is approved, but there'll be obviously a red line to that plan, and we will make sure that a final landscape plan makes its way to the design advisory panel members. So that is the landscaping, and this is some of the shrubs. Again, these are the bioretention plantings that have been utilized thus far in the Paddock Point project, and we will perpetuate these plantings in the new bioretention facilities as well. You know, with that really concludes our presentation this evening, and we're all here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, it's not your problem, Rob, but we never get to see the final landscape plans. So hopefully you'll follow through with good landscape plans.
Yeah, we've had that discussion with planning and zoning, because I know I've certainly heard from you loud and clear that you have not been privy to that. So I think with Nick, we've discussed how to provide that, get that to you when we're at that point, so that you do actually that it comes full cycle back to you.
Well, that would be nice. But I'm not holding my breath. We have any staff comments?
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Nicholas Haynes. I work for the Department of Planning and Zoning. I help, facilitate the DAP reviews on both the DAP side as well as the planning side here for the Department of Planning and Zoning. As Mr. Vogel and the other presenters, mentioned, this is essentially sort of a refinement of Paddock Point Phase 3. The panel actually solved this specific phase November 4th back in 2020. When the initial essentially mixed use development was moving forward, issues with construction costs and everything else. The applicants are hoping to utilize this new townhome layout in place of the multifamily apartment dwelling units that they had really on the north and southern portion of Phase 3 as before. Mr. Vogel did mention there is a reduction, which is true. They are going from 76 elevator condominiums really down to what is it? 68, I believe. 2/2 townhome units. We do have an approved site development plan for this property. I can forward that to the panel because that plan does have a full landscape plan attached to it, which satisfies the county's requirements for both the perimeter landscaping requirements, street plantings, and as well as the parking requirements. They are, I believe, keeping in tune with the existing landscaping and the plant palette essentially that has been provided on site. So I believe the hope is to continue those same plantings throughout the remainder of the development. And then the same thing with the architecture. As Mr. Thompson did mention, I believe the previous units had flat roofs and they're moving to a gabled roof as it facilitates better design. And I guess it's a little bit more refined and a little bit more durable, as I understand it, from a construction and longevity standpoint. So the planning and zoning, we'd actually like the panel to make comments and recommendations. Through the previous review, essentially a lot of your comments and discussion was centered around circulation, especially with tying into some of the fitness park and the natural areas. This new development, while it's not redesigning the entire site, I mean there is a little wiggle room. So any comments based on connectivity, orientation and layout of the new proposed units, is there anything that they maybe didn't think of or consider that might help this project function a little bit better? Maybe something will help it blend in with the surrounding development or the existing, I guess, sort of internal development to Paddock Point, maybe a little bit better. And then any recommendations on visual cues, scale and orientation of the buildings themselves. Is there anything that maybe they would benefit from moving forward as they refine this design and move forward with the revised site development plan?
Okay, I'll open up the comments from the panel. Anyone want to start?
I think
Larry,
Larry
you're
wants to go
muted.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. Should I go ahead then?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Can you move to the site plan of the townhouses that have replaced the apartments. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one to start with. I like what you've done there regarding taking the apartment building out and then putting the 2 over 2 townhouse units there, and the alleyway, the continuation of that makes a lot of sense. And I also like the fact that both rows of townhouses there on Justify Run, they face each other, and you have the parallel parking there as well as in the alleyway. So I don't really have any comments there. I think what you've done is good. In regard to the architecture, I'll let Kelly be the main commenter on that, but I like the improvements. I like the gabled roof a lot better, and also the fronts seem to be just cleaner and just more contemporary looking and a little different from the original one. So from my point of view as a landscape architect, I thought they have a nice sort of curb appeal. Can you go to the other portion of the plan now? Yeah, that portion. So I'm never a fan of the ones, the short alleyways where the units face each other on the green spaces, unless there's like good access for people like visitors to come in. So I really don't see, I mean, the driveways usually are filled with the occupants' cars and or maybe they're in the garage and there's one out in the driveway. But there doesn't seem to be very many parallel parking spaces on Sir Barton Way. So I don't know where guests would really park here. There's like maybe 4 or 5 spaces, but yet you have, is it 40 units total? I think it's 10 in each, so 40 units. It just seems that these people don't get as much of an amenity there as the others that have the true alleyway. I know one way to remedy it would be to continue that alleyway and flip, like, I guess maybe you would only be able to do 3 facing Sir Barton Way and then have the alleyway in the back, but you've already said that you've lost units, so I don't know whether that's something that would even be considered. But from my point of view, those short alleyways that you go in, they're tight, and you're really asking the guests to go down the alleyways and park in an available driveway space if there is one. But for others that are trying to come to watch a football game with or have a party or something, it just seems like they don't have parking that is necessary for that to work. That's pretty much my comments. I do like the way it laid out in the first portion, but the upper portion, I think you need to look at how parking would be handled for guest parking. That's the extent of my comments.
Yeah, just real quick, if you don't mind, this is Rob. Yeah, we do have some excess parking from when along Ruffian Way for the apartment buildings and the units that are along there.
Oh, okay.
So there is some surplus parking there, and then around the Family Fit Park on the outside of that, we do also have some parallel parking available there as well.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a walk, but again, I love the the townhouses that surround the Family Fit Park. I think that's done nicely. The fronts of the townhouses face the street, and you can landscape that nicely. It's the other ones that just seem to be problematic to me.
If you could go back to the site plan for a second, we were just looking at with the townhouses.
The ones we were just looking at.
Yeah. One more. That one. You've got some sort of a community facility in some poor guy's backyard. What are you doing that for?
I'm sorry,
You've got a community like a gazebo or something in this guy's backyard.
here.
Yes.
So that is the front. These are the fronts facing fronts. And what we did was we just had this little, I guess call it spline walkway that terminates down here with a little bit of a seating area. There is a smaller, not a medium-sized retaining wall here this is actually above that retaining wall is actually the access to the wetland environmental retention area and forest conservation area up here. So this will all be pretty much wooded up here. And we just thought this would be a good little spot for folks, being that these are the fronts of their homes, to come out, congregate, sit outside, enjoy some outside time. And that is the front, not the rears.
Boy, I'd want that in my front yard. Just a
What-
thought.
Yeah, what's the distance from the front of each of those townhomes to the other one? Like, how wide is that alley?
This is
Yeah,
the alley or the fronts.
that little park space.
Yeah, so this area is about somewhere 35, 40 feet.
Oof.
So across from them are garages. I mean, why would you stick this in this guy's front yard? I just don't understand.
We can eliminate it if the recommendation is to eliminate that. We certainly could eliminate it. Like I said, that was our thought, was it would be a nice little
I guess.
area to sit, but we'd be fine to eliminate that.
Why would
I
you
kind of
move
go
it
back to
by the
Larry's
garages?
comment about the orientation in general, that, you know, you have these really nice facades that have been developed, but that lawn at the fronts of the buildings is so close, you're never actually going to experience them in this orientation. Maybe at Alley 3, but that's about it.
I mean, if you feel like that's a really important feature, move it over by the garages, not in this guy's yard. Hello? Is there anybody there?
No, like I said, as far as the seating area and that area, we're okay to eliminate that. One other thing I did want to point out, I thought it's important, and I missed it, is this, where my cursor is here. This is a pathway that is required by the county. It ultimately goes skirts that environmental area and goes and actually connects up. If you're familiar with Whiskey Bottom Road, it connects up to the recently, not so recent now, constructed coastal produce facility. So the intent of that pathway is to be able to provide connectivity to the employment, and to those folks will be able to come down here. There's we're not showing it clearly, but Crosser Barton Way, there's a ramp here, a ramp that picks up on the other side, and then there's sidewalk on both sides of Sir Barton Way, but is to be able to bring those pedestrians from up at Coastal Produce to be able to bring them down through here to go to various locations, marked train station, either the flag station that exists at Laurel Park, Paddock Point, or the Laurel train station itself, or out to Laurel Park, American Faro, Laurel Park Boulevard, and out to Route 1. So I did want to let you know that's what this pathway is at this location.
Anyone else have any comments?
So on the architecture side of things, I like what you've done down by Alley 7. I think with what you've developed, that's going to be able to be experienced off of that shared driveway. That all makes a lot of sense. And I apologize. I'm new to the committee, to the DAP. I wasn't here for the original presentation. What do the rear and the side of these buildings look like?
So I'll let the folks from Beazer kind of talk to, maybe if they could talk to the treatment on the sides of these units that would fit
Right.
for Barton Way, that would be great.
Yeah,
Sure.
'cause that's a change in orientation from what we've focused on, and you're not going to experience those. So just that would help bring me up to speed on those.
No, we appreciate that, Kelly. And so the treatment on the rear is a covered porch vinyl cladded rear elevation. And on the sides, it's a mix of masonry and siding depending on the elevation type. So on our product type, it is vinyl and accent. So it depends on which elevation it would be, whether it would be sin board or vertical siding on the ends.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes, and
it's
the
just. But
I'm sorry, the water table height would vary depending upon the elevation that the end unit is.
okay. Yeah, just the end unit is going to become your primary facade there, and that definitely needs to make sure it's addressed. And you're going to have a gable end now versus a flat roof. So how does that all tie in?
No, we appreciate that, absolutely. So if you would, if you're looking at that above picture on this slide deck, the gabled roof would have the same accent treatment that we would do and just carry that forth. And similar, like Beck said, that depending on which elevation type it would be, the masonry water table would carry all the way. And then you would get those accents. It just wouldn't have that. If you look at Ryan product or the MV for the previous product, you see the that masonry going up the center. We view that as a little bit of nonsensical, and so we would let the accent carry around all the way across.
Okay. Yeah, I just request that those end elevations, they need definitely focus and, special care, since they will be what they see more. You did a really nice composition for the main face, but how these townhomes up in that area are orient alley 6 and alley 5, you're never going to see them, unfortunately.
We definitely take that under advisement, and we feel the same way. We wouldn't do anything that would detract from the overall appeal of the front elevation.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, were you? Oh, go ahead, Dan, and then I'll comment.
No, I was saying, did Kelly have any more comments that she wanted to add in?
I think the modification, it's keeping with what you've done already. The modifications, I think, are complementary. So I don't see any issues with that. Just, again, making sure with that orientation of the overall building, we dial in those end elevations. It'd be really nice to see what those look like as you move forward.
We can definitely do the
Yeah.
rings in the rear for you.
Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know Nick is going to forward the landscape plans that had been prior approved, but I don't know, I can't remember how you're treating the alleyways. I know it's tight and you have to have room for the air conditioning units and the garbage containers and that kind of thing, but I'm hoping that, because it doesn't show any greenery there, and I've seen these alleyways time and time again, and they're pretty awful, especially since your decks, I don't know if there's decks off the backs of these, but they're looking at the other decks and there's absolutely no greenery. If there's any opportunity to put in, even if it's something like an emerald green arborvitae that grows to be, 10 feet tall, but it's only 3 feet wide, it would help, give some rhythm to that alleyway and just some greenery to break up all the pavement of driveways and the alleyway itself. So again, I'll look for that when I see the landscape plans. But if you haven't addressed it, it would be a good idea to try and get some greenery in there. I know you can't put, street tree type things because they won't fit, but there are evergreens that could work there and just really help soften those alleyways.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Larry, and we should have done a better job here with buffering from driveway to alley, and we certainly will certainly address that. As far as between the driveways, we'll look at that distance and try to we'll specify the appropriate material in there to break up the amount of impervious in that area.
Yeah,
So,
I think
yeah,
that would be a big.
we'll definitely accommodate both of those things.
I've also seen too, since it's two sets overlooking the alleyway, and I know it's at added expense, but even something when you do like a permeable paver or something to make it look more, I don't know, just finished in terms of and environmentally sensitive. Maybe it gives you more opportunity to with your calculations for your stormwater, but when you're looking at something that's a paver rather than asphalt, that helps too, just to make that look more like a a backyard type environment or a kind of a courtyard rather than an alleyway, especially on the alley 5 and 6, which they're short and you're not already denying the people having street frontage because they have to go through the little green space to get to their front door. So it might be nice in those two areas to consider not only the greenery, but maybe some type of pavement. Maybe it's not even the whole alley being paved with it. Maybe it's just some border of paver or something that just helps break that up and not make it look like just an asphalt area and treats it a little bit more special.
Great suggestion. I'll definitely take that one under advisement. Good suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I appreciate your use of native materials. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more with the things you bring in, Bob. So that's very much appreciated by the DAP committee as well as the county.
Great.
Anyone
Okay,
else?
this is Dan Lovett. I love everything that you've done from alley 3 over to alley 7. The traffic flows, there's parking. I love everything that you got there, the family park. I think if I was going to live, I'd want to live down there. And what Larry was pointing to was the first thing I saw out of my eyes when I saw this plan was alleys 6 and 5. I don't like it. I don't like that they're connected. And I know you're tough because you have that retaining wall and everything back there. I don't know if you have extra space. If we got rid of this little walkway area, can we add more parking in there? Because it's not just parking, it's also deliveries. People coming to there, and they're going to have to park in front of people's driveways because they're not going to come over to the Ruffian Way and deliver packages onto the other side. I just would really like to see something there where these people either connect 6 through 5 or give them some places to park or to make deliveries so it can flow better. But again, everything you've done with alley 3 through 7, this looks awesome. I do really like it. I just don't like 5 and 6. I don't like those dead ends. There's no cul-de-sac. There's no way for people to turn around. I don't know. I don't have a very good suggestion there, and I don't like to the fact that there's no parking away for people in those alleys without having to walk such a big distance to go there.
Yes. So if I could, we tried. Obviously, this is the product we've got to utilize. As Nick stated, it's not viable to build the other product in this market at all. We've tried going perpendicular to the direction of 5 and 6, but we don't have the dimensions to make it work in that direction. We'd have units facing Sir Barton Way and units facing a retaining wall, and not good orientation with that either. So there, unfortunately, there's not a great there's not a perfect solution to this. I do like the suggestions that Larry had, and I think that's what we're going to try to move forward with that, with dressing up the alley, providing the additional landscaping, and make it more palatable from that perspective. But unfortunately, I think our options are quite limited here. I apologize, but that's kind of what we're a little bit stuck with here.
Okay. Well, that's the two things I point out. Just one more thing on the landscaping. Should we really be planting the American elm right now?
Yeah, I really couldn't read a lot of the names on those because
I just saw American elm and and I'm just going, I don't know if that's a good idea.
I mean, if suggestion is to eliminate that, we certainly could.
Well, there's a lot of problems with, I mean, they'll get to a certain point and then they get the Dutch elm disease or whatever. So that's what Dan's referring to. So there's probably other trees. I mean, for instance, I don't like to use the Zelkova a lot because it's not native, but it is one that kind of replicates that V-shaped tree form that the elm has, and it's not subject to any diseases that I know of. So that could be a substitute if you really want kind of a small V-shaped tree.
Sure.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Anyone want to make some motions?
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion, and that Bob has already said that they're willing to look at is to look at alleys. Is it, now I forget the numbers, is it 5 and 6?
Yes.
Alleyways 5 and 6, that you look to use some specialty pavement in those alleyways to make them, more of a, a front street type look, as well as introduce some greenery where possible. And then also to look for additional parking for guests. I don't know if that could be along more parallel parking along Sir Barton Way, or if it is going to be the parking in the Ruffian Way parking lot, that it be so designated as guest parking. That's the end of the motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make a motion that you take the community gazebo out of that guy's backyard and either eliminate it or put it somewhere else.
I'll
Anyone second that?
I think
Second.
I think Dan seconded.
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the end elevations and rear elevations get similar treatment to the fronts that have that connected language, since they'll be more primary than the fronts of the buildings in this orientation.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Sorry I was late.
No problem.
Thank you all.
So long.
So Anthony, we have no one more? Yeah, okay.
Yes, we do have one more project. Let's let the team transition over. The next project is a conditional use age restricted adult housing project called the Evergreen, I keep want to say Evergreen Reserve, but I don't want to misspeak. Yeah, Evergreen Reserve, I was correct. Who from the Evergreen Reserve team is going to lead the presentation? I can make you the presenter.
I can share the presentation, please, Nick.
Sure, hang on one second.
Oh, Anthony, sorry.
That's okay.
You're good, Victoria. Chris, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I don't have, I don't have the screen.
Who is Chris?
Chris Ogle.
Chris
Oh,
Ogle,
okay.
sorry.
Are you logged in as just Chris yourself? Because there's somebody in our attendees called Chris, and I can move you over.
That could be Chris Mulligary, but he was not a presenter.
All right, he should be over now. All right, Victoria, you should have sharing privileges.
Okay, let me
So we can roll right into your presentation as soon as you're ready. Since I believe everyone was on before, and it doesn't appear that we have any new folks.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, would you like to start?
Sure. Again, for some reason our video is not working, but maybe that sometimes it's better. Okay, I'm Chris Ogle, the engineer, Benchmark Engineering, for this development. I just want to start off by just framing the development a little bit. The site is zoned RSC, and we are proposing an age-restricted adult housing apartment, which is a conditional use of the RSC zoning, and that is the purpose of this meeting. Property is approximately 6 acres, located at the northeast corner of 216 and Baltimore Avenue. If you see the plan that's on the screen, you can see where the red bubble is. We are to the northeast of that bubble. The site is wooded. It has steep slopes and a stream located along the east boundary with associated floodplain. The development, the North Laurel development, is located to the east of the property, approximately 300 feet. There's a valley. If you go back to the previous, to the east of the property, North Laurel is located in that area. In between the property where the development actually is on the property and where North Laurel development is, it's about 200 to 300 feet, and there's a pretty good deep valley in between the two, mostly wooded, and I believe there's some Howard County owned open space along the east side of our property boundary as well. The development to the west, opposite of 216, or our property opposite, is mostly townhouses, and that's, I don't know if that development in there is High Ridge, but it's close to the High Ridge development, so it's a pretty well dense townhouse area right there. So go to the site plan sheet of it. One more. Thank you. The developer is proposing a 20-unit adult age-restricted apartment building with associated parking. The parking is going to be located under the building, and there will be some guest parking on the drive aisle into the building, not underneath the building. Access will be from Baltimore Avenue at the intersection located where the adjacent development intersection is. That development is called Patuxent Overlook. The access drive is going to be a private 24-foot wide drive, and the drive will be relatively steep up to the location where the proposed apartment is going to be. Building is sited on a knoll on the property, which allows the minimal environmental disturbance, being that there's quite a bit of steep slopes, stream buffers, and specimen trees. I think the location of where we propose the building is probably the most ideal spot on the whole 6-acre parcel. And because of the location of being on top of the knoll, that's basically the reason why the drive is going to be somewhat steep going up into where the apartment building is. We're proposing an ADA pathway from Baltimore Avenue to go through the site up to the proposed rear of the building, and it will kind of meander through the terrain of the property. We'll get into a little bit more detail of that pathway as we get a little bit further into the presentation. Public water for the site will come from the existing water main, which is located within Baltimore Avenue, and it will run up that private drive. And at the end of the water main, just adjacent to the building, we are proposing a fire hydrant. So we've also had a cursory meeting with Fire and Rescue, and with meeting with them, they had requested that we provide an access drive going all the way up to the front of the building. So if you can see it's orange on this plan, the pathway, the driveway that goes all the way to probably 3/4 away through the building, that's basically a fire lane. That's not going to have any parking or anything like that. It could be used as sidewalk access for around the building or people to walk through, but it won't be any parking. The building is set back at 40 feet from 216, the right of way at 216, and that setback based on the zoning, or based on the conditional use, is a structure and use setback, so you can't have any parking in that area. But fire and rescue actually wanted us to try to loop, try to do all kinds of things there, but we know that it's relatively steep, so we provided their access up there, and their turnaround would be, again, the orange is the pathway. They could back up, and then they asked for a access to 216, which I think that access is probably going to be something not paved, but maybe like a grass creek or something like that. And it'll probably most likely have a chain or a gate or something, but it'll give an extra access for fire and rescue to get into the site, since it's a little bit problematic for maneuvering around the building, because we really don't have elevation to be able to do anything like that. The site will also be connected to existing sewer, and the existing sewer currently now runs along the east of the property along the stream. So we'll be tying into the sewer and for the to connect for the building. Since the site is predominantly wooded, we anticipate that the remaining forest on the property outside of any of the disturbance will be placed into a forest conservation easement, which should most likely provide the obligations for the forest conservation. And most likely the open space area outside of the development, which would include the forest conservation, the floodplain, the stream buffers, would most likely be dedicated to Howard County. And I believe Howard County owns a portion of the open space already on the adjacent lot. So most likely that there'll be a lot that'll be dedicated over to rec and parks. Stormwater management for the building, we anticipate doing dry wells. We have had some cursory borings done, and it shows that it is suitable for dry wells. And we're assuming that we'll have several dry wells for the building itself. The dry wells are just the stone pits where the roof leaders are directed into the stone, and it will provide water quality through the stone, and then it'll infiltrate into the soil. Stormwater management for the drive, for the proposed drive, which is shown in orange, we're anticipating that probably bioretention facilities. We'll probably have 2 of those. And the bioretention, again, the impervious area will be directed towards those 2 bio facilities. And the facilities are made of biomaterial, mulch and whatnot. And the intent, the water will it'll provide water quality for the runoff to inside the facilities, and they'll infiltrate into the soil. So I think for that, that kind of just gives you overall what we're doing, and with a little bit more detail on landscaping and the architect. I believe Julie from Enviro Collabs will get more into the greenery and the plantings.
Julie?
Yeah, can everyone hear me? I just unmuted.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Julie Shapiro with Enviro Collab. We're a landscape architecture team on this project. So yeah, I'll speak to the proposed plantings and the ADA path from the building out to Baltimore Avenue a little bit. As Chris mentioned, we're creating this pedestrian connection from the age-restricted housing out to Baltimore Avenue, which does have existing sidewalks, so providing that pedestrian connectivity. And we, considering the steep slopes on site and the opportunities to kind of engage with the forest edge and do a little bit of restoration planting along that edge, we placed the pathway coming down from the corner of the garage. And as you can see, following a somewhat more meandering path than just a straight sidewalk would be down the driveway. This is to meet ADA grading. And also we kind of think that this can make a beautiful amenity for folks. There are some seating areas, and the plantings are considered for views and outlooks, and to tie in with the native forest on this site. So we've also proposed In order to handle the grading, we've proposed some segments of boardwalk as well as path, and this will allow it to be a lower impact construction, especially with the stream buffer not too far away down the slope from this path, avoiding extensive cut fill and grading for a paved path the whole way. So we've got some boardwalk segments, some paved segments, but all of it ADA accessible. For the plantings, we're proposing sort of a naturalistic character, as you can see in those couple photos at the bottom, and all native plant materials. So if we could go, actually, one moment more on this slide. We're also going to do some screening planting around the dumpster and the garage entrance area so that you don't have to experience that too much from your lovely woodland walk. But if we could go to the next slide for a moment. Yeah, so this speaks a little bit more to the experience of the path, the impact, the grading. These are just a couple of schematic sections. The top one, section B, coming first, is just showing how we would tuck a bench or a little seating area into the slope along the path and kind of buffer that from the roadway above with plantings. And then on the bottom, section A shows a boardwalk segment next to one of the bioretention areas, which we would also develop a planting scheme for those, plants within them as it's suitable, and plants around the edges to kind of tie everything together. So let's go to the next slide as well. And this is just to touch on the planting character and the palette. Again, because the site is primarily wooded, we would look to native species that are present in that woodland already, and also emphasize ones with nice seasonal interest. So particularly good fall foliage or spring flowering like Cornus florida, the dogwood shown on the right. And this plant palette, even as we were starting the meeting, I thought there might be a few revisions that we make to this so far. I think we might sub a different oak for the white oak, since I've been hearing maybe alternate oaks are more recommended than that for this region. But overall, all native shrubs and all kind of extending and evoking the character of the forest that's on site already. Primarily, it will be tree plantings to meet the number requirements for the number of units proposed, as well as whatever mitigation may be required for specimen trees that need to be removed for the construction. So that's how we've calculated the current number of trees on the plan, and we will continue to follow those guidelines for any revisions. We're also considering wildlife habitat, species with food or other resource value for native wildlife. So, and then making this path not only the necessary accessible route, but an experience that residents may enjoy, and maybe just a pleasant walk, even for community members who might walk up from the sidewalk. I'm just looking at my notes to see if I've missed anything. No, I think we can continue with the presentation, but I'm happy to take questions about the landscape, and I think we'd be happy to provide final landscape plans to the panel as well.
Thank you, Julie. My name is Victoria Crawshar Plantholt. I'm an architect with Brazier Design. For the building itself, it's a 3-story building in which we are tucking parking for the residents underneath as the first floor. Above that parking garage are 2 levels. The first level of the building itself will have 10 units and a common room for the residents. And then the second level has another 10 units and a common patio above that common room for residents to enjoy. On the front elevation and the side elevation that faces Baltimore Avenue, you can see that we are breaking down the overall building mass to a smaller, more residential scale. We are using residential friendly materials of brick and fiber cement siding to be sensitive to the other residential neighbors that we have. The main materials will be brick, as you can see in the darker reddish bays, 2 different colors of fiber cement sidings applied both horizontally and vertically, and then some small use of ephes just in the cornices so we can get a more detailed profile on those cornices. The rear elevation here, you can see lots of, again, earth tones and same sort of residential materials that it's kind of doubtful even with if in winter residents from those neighborhoods on the east would be able to really see the building, but it should kind of blend into the woodiness and the brown of the trees and the forest conservation area. So here we go, again from the front, the building will face more the 216 edge of the property and be buffered from the other neighboring sites. But that is the Evergreen Reserve age restricted housing, and we're happy to hear any comment or questions.
Staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the design team did a fairly good job, explaining exactly, what they have proposed, in the site. As some background, the entire property at 9726 is roughly almost 6¼ acres. It is completely forested. It does have environmentally sensitive areas on it. Currently, there's a lot of stream network that runs along the border, and there are a lot of resources, stream resources located on the northern portion of the property. The property is zoned RSC. Age restricted adult housing is permitted within RSC zone properties, subject to them moving through a conditional use petition, which I guess is the next major step that they'll be going through design wise. I mean, proposed, as you guys have seen, a garage on the lowest level, two stories of units above for age restricted adult housing. Given that the constraints of the site, and it does have frontage on 216 as well as Baltimore Avenue. Planning and zoning, we'd like the panel to evaluate and make recommendations, on the orientation, layout, and configuration of the general site plan as a whole. Does the proposed layout, orientation, of the building and basically what the elements that they have proposed, are there maybe alternatives that they should consider in terms of maybe vehicular circulation, pedestrian circulation, both internally to the site as well as moving folks out to the sidewalk network that exists along 216 and Baltimore Avenue. Edge treatments and transitions. They do have fairly good buffer, as they showed you from the neighboring properties. As Mr. Ogle did mention, there is open space in between this piece of property and the neighboring. It is owned by Howard County currently, so they do have some good buffer. But given the orientation and location of the building, is there something maybe they should maybe consider as they move forward with this design, to maybe help it work better within the context of both roadway 216 but as well as the neighboring properties. And then any recommendations on the architecture that they have proposed, scale, style, and then the interconnectivity, and the way that the site will actually function and work really internally in terms of circulation and stuff like that. And then lastly, it is age restricted adult housing. Are there any recommendations towards the open spaces and stuff they have provided, amenities that maybe they something they haven't considered site update wise? I mean, they are providing nice good outdoor meandering path. Is there maybe something they could expand upon or an adjustment be made that would make that really a nice outdoor amenity for the residents who will be spending time there? Any recommendations and considerations would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, a couple of questions. How many units are here? 20?
20.
Okay, and it's 55 and older.
Correct.
Okay. Can we go back to the site plan for a second?
Of course. This one?
Go to the one that shows the landscape. It's
Oh,
nicer to look at.
this one?
That one, yeah. So I think the project is a nice project. I don't have any opinion on the architecture. I think it's a little commercial looking, but I'll leave that to others. But so this is 55 and over. So my mom's living here, and she's 55, and she's got a lot of friends. Where the heck do they park when they come to visit her?
This Chris Ogle, the parking for this building requirement is 1.3 spaces per unit, and this meets and exceeds by maybe a couple of spaces, but this meets or exceeds the county's minimum requirement for the parking.
You didn't answer my question. Where are they parking?
Underneath the garage.
The guests are.
The garage should accommodate, the parking meets 1.3 per unit. So it's meeting the minimum requirements, and that's where everyone is going to park.
So if I'm a guest, I go into the garage.
Well, there's additional spaces outside of the garage. There's about 3 parking spaces outside of the garage. They cannot park, like I said, they cannot park in front of the building. That's a fire.
3 spaces outside the garage.
Right, but again, we still meet the county's requirement.
I understand you meet the requirement. That's not what I'm asking. I want to put my mom here, and no one can come visit her. You've got a dead end at the front door. How do you not have some kind of you drop your mom off, and then you got to back all the way back down the driveway to get out of here?
I mean, I will say also the units here are, they're small, they're modest. So it's not that you're going to have large parties. Of course, family and friends will visit. But we do have parking. There's only 20 units in the building. So there's not too many people here to be having large events or many people over.
Nevertheless, I drop my mom off at the front door, and then I have to back up 300 feet to get out of here and turn around in your driveway to the garage to get out because there's no other way. I mean, how could you not have some kind of a turnaround at the end of this dead end?
Well, in theory, you're going to drop your mom off. You're going to go inside the garage and drop your mom off, not in where the lobby is, because again, that's a fire lane, not a drop off lane along the front of the building.
And I'll know that when I drive up there. Oh, this is a fire lane, so I shouldn't go up there.
Yeah, right. And there's an elevator that's going to be in the garage, and there's I think 2 sets of stairs that go up. So if you're dropping somebody off, you're going down underneath, dropping them off, turn around underneath, or as you back out, and then go back. That's the intent.
So I'm not going to get a good answer for this. You can't provide a turnaround at the end of that dead end.
Well, in theory, there is a turnaround. So if you drove to the edge of where the drive comes up to the building, you stop at that point, you back up to where the drive is to go down underneath the building, and then you turn around. It can accommodate a vehicle to make that turn.
Okay.
So that's
okay. So
turnaround is provided.
So you're not going to give me a good answer. So let's move on to something else.
Well, just to go on your point, Bob, where are the deliveries you're going to come in? Are they coming in through the front? Are they going through the garage?
Well, I would think that they would probably, I don't know. I guess, I don't know, is it the garage? Victoria, where would like like if people were to drop off packages or whatever inside of the building?
They'd probably, I would think, come at the front door.
So they would drive up that aisle, drop off, and then back out.
And then back up.
Yeah.
That's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, at least even if you had like one of those dovetails or whatever, you know, where someone coming at the end could pull into that like a space and then back up and go back out the right way. I mean, that would be helpful.
Anything.
I
Or-
mean,
Could the entrance, I know the grading's a challenge, but could the entrance move closer to that corner of the building versus being more centered?
yeah, that's a good point, Kelly. I was wondering that too. It's the architecture is nice. I like it the way it's broken up and it kind of looks like townhomes, but it's not really visible by anybody coming. I mean, I don't even think you can see it from 216 if that the tree conservation area is there. So it's unfortunate you come up and you really don't see the front of the building. You're forced into the garage, but at least if you can move the entryway and create kind of a corner lobby, like, you know, kind of hugging that gathering area and the outdoor patio, then at least you're saying like, here's the front door, and you're not forced up into this dead end driveway.
Or even just widening up the road, you know, to 30 feet, because it looks like you got some area there. Is that possible? All the way up to your property line, so someone could turn around if needed.
The rendering makes it look like that's open grassy area, not too bad of a slope, but if you look on the site plan, it looks like it's all tree conservation area and steeply sloped. So I agree with you, Dan. I don't know if they can or not.
Are you talking about where the entrance into the garage is?
No, we're talking
No.
about the front of the building.
The upper end, yeah.
Because if we can make it wider where, you know, a truck or a delivery or a car just dropping someone off, you know, there's enough room to turn around.
Well, there's
You know.
24 feet of that paving that goes all the way to the front of the building. I mean, that's as wide as a public street is.
I know, but most people don't turn around in the street. Normally you need a like 36.
Oh, no, yeah,
Yes.
there's no turnaround and there's no room for a T turnaround or anything. We investigated in that, extending that to beyond the building and maybe putting a T somewhere to the north of the building, but the slopes are way too steep in that area. It would be completely impossible to put it would be a really huge wall.
What about this? What about this? So if we don't have the sidewalk in the front that has to the right, which has the steps, which probably nobody's going to use anyway. I'm wondering, could we get rid of that and expand a little bit to the north toward the property line? Well, it's not true north, but north as I'm looking at the plan, and add another 5 feet from the sidewalk. Could we put in a small T? Is that possible?
We can definitely take a look at that. The intent of the design, when I laid this out, the intent of the design, Howard County has a standard, they call it like an offset T turnaround. So where the driveway entrance is, and if you extend just a little bit past where the driveway entrance is, that meets that offset turnaround. And that was the intent. So instead of doing a true T turnaround, that entrance right there where you would turn right to go down into the garage, that area in theory meets the footprint as the typical.
No, not there. I'm talking about in the front.
Not right, but again, the intent is not really to encourage people to drive up there, because that is basically a fire lane. So in theory,
I understand that, but I know people are going to drop. They're going to drop.
The way that it's
deliveries.
oriented now with your main entrance there, people are going to drive up there, or not knowing where they are.
Trees and everything else. They're going to go there.
It'll probably be striped and there'll be signs there that say that this is a fire lane only. We originally were going to do it as like a Grass Creek kind of a thing or something like that, for fire and rescue. But when we met with them, they said that they would like it rather to be pavement instead of anything like that. So that's how we ended up where we are today. But the intent of that is really, it really shouldn't, maybe in theory, I shouldn't have shown it on there because it isn't intended to be a drop off or anything for people to pull up in.
But that's how people are going to use it.
Yeah.
Because your front door entrance is there. I mean,
Can I
I-
ask a question? Who is, I don't know, are these apartments or is it just like a single room and then the people eat in a central kitchen or dining room area?
They're apartments.
So they're apartments. Each one has their own little living area and kitchen area and that type of thing.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate that the building front, it looks really nice. It has this designated main entrance. You've played that up, but yet it's not visible. It's not accessible. You don't want people driving up there. It's going to be striped as fire lane only. It's like you've made it a back door, you know, just a secondary entrance, but yet it's the main entry. And I agree with Bob. You're going to want to be able to, like, if you've taken your mother out, you know, at Thanksgiving dinner, and you're bringing her back. I mean, taking her down into the garage, and I don't even know if there's going to be room to turn around down there. It's unfortunate you can't play up that front entrance. And I agree with Kelly's initial comment that maybe it needs to be moved so that it's anchoring and it plays up the corner of the building so that it announces arrival rather than being this secondary thing that's off of a fire lane.
Yeah, if you could play that entrance, the garage entrance, and then, you know, another question about how this ADA pathway then connects in, is that going into the garage too, or is that going to dead end at the back of the building? If all three of those elements could get related as, you know, here's where you enter this building.
Right.
You know, a parking garage entrance doesn't need to be kind of the sad, drab, hide it away thing. You can make it nice as part of the whole rest of the entrance of the building.
You know, for this thing to work, you've got to get some kind of a variance or whatever you need to do to get rid of that dead end and put some kind of a turnaround there, whether it's a Y turnaround or a cul-de-sac or whatever it is. People are going to go up there to drop people off and pick people up at the front door. And now they've got to back up for, I don't know, what, a couple 100 feet.
No. The backup, again, if you pull straight up the drive and you don't go all the way along that, even if you took that drive all the way to the end in front of the building to back out of there, all you have to do is back up, and then where the entrance is to the garage, that's your turnaround right there. You back in and then turn around. That's a turnaround. There's no more than that being a turnaround. That's
Also, with the
Yeah.
24-foot wide opening, I would do a 3-point turn before I backed up even.
Not sold.
Yeah,
You can say that all night long. I'm not
Yeah.
sold.
It's awkward at best, honestly. I just think that not allowing people up there, I mean, if that has to be a fire lane, fine, but then don't put the main entry up there. Keep it down at that lower level, move the elevator and cluster that all at the corner and really play up, you know, that corner of the building architecturally. That's the front corner entry.
yeah, I agree with Larry on that.
Okay, we're going around in circles here. Anyone have any motions?
Kelly, did you want to make it since it's architectural more, or maybe, I don't know if you agree with.
Yeah, well, are any other comments or questions? I just had like another little architectural comment, or are we just going right into the motions?
Well, I did want to
got
say
some comments too, so.
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
My biggest concern is your your bioretention pond and your sidewalk. I'm worried that this grading on such a steep slope, how this is going to work out and remain the sidewalk to be ADA compliant. I don't know how you're going to make that work without walls. So I would like to see more information and grading how you're going to make this work. And this is the MBR-B that you've got labeled. I don't know grading wise how that's going to work. This is on, what page is this?
If you go back another slide or two, it's the one that shows the grading lines on it.
This one here.
Yep. Yes, that one. Thank you.
Yeah, well, go back.
There
Yeah.
we go.
I just don't know how this over here, this MBR, which is the bioretention pond. I don't know how that and the sidewalk is going to be ADA compliant, and all that has to be worked in such a flat area because they both have to need to be flat. And the grading work out. I think you really need to look at this and make sure that grading will work out, because you put it on a very steep slope.
I'll just say briefly that initial grading studies did have this meeting ADA requirements, but we will certainly do
Well,
further.
just make sure you make it work with the retention pond.
Yeah, that point is really well taken. And as I mentioned before, we were proposing some boardwalks to avoid using retention walls or too much
Yeah,
grading.
because
for
when
this
you
path.
put in retention walls,
Right.
everything starts getting expensive. So
Yep.
I just
Yep.
want to make sure you guys were aware of it because it caught my attention.
Thank you so much.
I do like the boardwalk idea. I would just note, I walk the trolley trail over here by Ellicott City all the time, and that boardwalk is a nice amenity, but it is very narrow. So definitely look at the width of that boardwalk to consider, again, the older community. You may have two people in wheelchairs passing each other, and if it's people walking together, how do you stack them? So the width of that, if you can look at how that can be comfortable. So I'll say the trolley trail is not, especially with a stroller and a baby.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Okay, motions? I'd like to make one. I know you're constrained by the property line and the topography and everything else, but I think you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how you allow people to turn around and go back out after they've dropped someone off, because this is going to be mostly elderly people. And whether it's moving the front door, to the west, or whatever it is, I don't think you can have this dead end. So my motion is, you got to figure out how to get people turned around and back out again. Anyone second that?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Third that.
Aye.
Okay, passed, I guess. Anyone else?
I'll make a motion slightly separate from that, Bob, that the entrance elements of the architecture look at a corner configuration towards the entrance of the site.
I'll second that.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. I mean, it's a nice project. It just, you've got to figure out how to make it work for people who are coming and going.
Hey, Bob, it's Chris Ogle. I'm having a hard time explaining it because it's nice when you sit down and you can point at things or whatever. But if you're looking at that picture right now, and do you see the thick dashed line that's in the center of the road, the new drive? That's the water line. So basically where that water line is ending as it comes up to the building, my intent was that would be where basically a little bit further towards the building, right there would be about where you would pull up and stop. If you were dropping somebody off, you could walk that pathway to get to the front door. And then when you leave, you just back up that little bit and then turn into where the entrance is to the garage is and then back out. So that area right there, you would be backing up about 40 feet. And then doing your turnaround to get back out. It's hard to make it clear and have you understand how I have it. Originally, when I did this design, I also had dashed in there is what that county standard detail shows where that offset turnaround is, because I did that when I had the meeting with Fire and Rescue so that they could see where we're actually, you are able to turn around if you bring a fire or rescue vehicle all the way up. They actually want to get their vehicles into the building, the garage itself. They wanted to try to bring an ambulance into the garage, but they are okay with the way that our configuration works for their emergency vehicles. So that was kind of what my intent was when I did this design. They were the ones that suggested to extend that the pavement, the 24-foot pavement. I actually had that less than 24 feet. I think I had it at 20, and they suggested that we do that. So I think it's important that we have it because we need it for fire and rescue. But I also, yeah, I agree with you. We do need a way to turn around because people are going to pull up there and not probably all the time inside the garage. So I agree with you, and it just needs to be more detailed, I guess.
I know it's a tough problem. Looking at it, I can see the grades and I can see all the issues. I just think that maybe you just need to not allow people to drive all the way to that dead end.
Yes.
And move the entrance to the building closer to that corner.
Right.
Somehow. I mean, what's the reality of that little wish list access out to the north there?
That's the fire. That's just for fire.
Okay, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah, the state would never allow access to the site through that. A permanent access.
I don't have an answer, but I know that people are going to drive all the way down to that dead end and they'll go, oh my God, how do I get out of here? And then they're going to have to back all the way out. And that's what's going to happen time and time again.
Yeah,
And,
even if you put signs up, people just do what they do.
yeah, it won't matter.
Yeah, no, unfortunately.
Chris, your building looks nice. It deserves to have a nice approach to it rather than a fire lane. That's why I know you can't orient it any other way, but you see many buildings that play up the corner of the building, and you already have nice amenities on that end with the patio, the gathering room. It almost makes sense to have a lobby like right off of that where, if someone's coming in, sometimes these places you can, rent the gathering area and you can have a family dinner with your, elderly mother or something like that. It would all be right there clustered together.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. That could be something that we can look at. It's very important that for fire and rescue, we give them as much that we possibly can based on the site conditions.
Yeah, well, you could still have that up there, but then, the main entry, you don't even have to go up that last slope. You have kind of like the drop-off area, the turnaround area is all down at the bottom of that slope. Because I know you said that you could have a walkway going up to the main door, but it's showing a slope there. I don't know what the steepness of it is, but if it's, 8% or more, then it's really going to have to be a ramp, going up to your front door. And again, it just makes it, I don't know, not as pleasing as it could be. It has so much potential, to be a really nice drop-off area and something that you can really accentuate as your corner entry.
Right.
And if you move that down, could you then integrate something like a access control gate or something that has a Knox box to keep people from driving up there, again, making it truly just a utilitarian thing?
I mean, it almost looks like you could tilt the whole building to the, let me get the direction correctly, to the left and down before you get into the forest there and the steep grades, and put a cul-de-sac before you go down to the garage. Maybe not, but it looks like you have room to do that.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, normally I'm a big fan of sidewalks. But this sidewalk that runs from the main entrance over to the right with all those steps, I don't even know if it's really needed.
Where are you talking about, Dan, on the?
So you see where the main entrance is?
Can we go to the other? Can we go to the other plan? This one, it's for grading. It's okay, but okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you see it over here, and it,
Right.
I don't know if it's really needed, and you can gain
Yeah.
5 or 6 feet there for additional turnaround if you wanted to, because I don't know if it's needed.
Well, again, we don't want to encourage people. We don't want to encourage people to drive in front of the building. you can't park in the front in that area because the strict restriction line does not allow you to put any parking in there. I don't want people to park there. We need it for fire and rescue only. So we really don't want to encourage people to keep driving and parking and going into that direction. So I
Right.
think we need to try to discourage that as much as we can, but we need to provide it because fire and rescue really wants to be able to have that access, and I agree with them. And that's a part of the reason why we have the sidewalk too, because we want to be able to get fire and rescue to walk around the building, go around the back of the building.
Does fire and rescue have an issue with shifting the main entrance over to the left?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. And also, Chris, I don't see a walkway I see the walkway going around, to the, I guess that's the east, but I don't see a walkway that's going down, and connecting to that area where you say, like, you don't really have to drive all the way up to that, the fire lane. I don't see a walkway there.
There's a walkway, if you come out of the front of the building where the entrance is now and go right, there's a sidewalk right there and it goes all the way around the building.
Right, but if you're talking about someone, not having people go up into the fire lane and, stay at the bottom of that slope there to drop somebody off, there's no walkway, up, front to the left of the front entry.
Well, the paved area, you can walk on the paved area.
Oh, okay.
You can walk on the paved area. You can walk
Yeah.
on the fire lane. You just have to drive on the fire lane.
Yeah, it's really a conflict. I agree with the others. It's like, don't drive up.
We've given the team a lot of comments to consider, and we've made some motions. I guess the question for DPZ is there a motion to see this project at the panel level again, or
Let's see what
take
the motions
comments
are.
and redesign?
Let's see if anyone has any motions first.
There were 2 motions already. Are there additional ones?
Well, it's not a motion, it's just my suggestion again about the bioretention pond and the sidewalk being ADA compliant. You're really going to need to look at the grading over there to make sure it can work, because as I'm seeing it right now, it doesn't look like it works. So it's not a motion, it's a suggestion that you're going to have to look at that area.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we don't often do this, but I'd love to have you come back and just show us how you resolve these issues. Is that possible, Anthony?
Yeah. I mean, the motion can be that they follow up with the information and DPZ brings it back to you. We've done that, I believe, in the past. If you don't want to have it at a full meeting, we can make sure that it's highlighted that they'll provide the information to us, which they will as they start the design process. They have not gone through the conditional use process yet, so they have not even begun.
I think that's adequate. If you we don't want to make this onerous, but if you come back to planning and zoning and show that you've thought about this and you got some solutions, or there's just no way to solve it, that'll be fine with us, I think. Everybody else agree?
Yeah, because I like that there's enough buffering, even though this doesn't look like much that's in this area. There's so much buffering on here. I think it's fine. So I'm fine with it. What you suggested, Larry, or sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I'm fine too with them taking our suggestions and coming back to Anthony and Nick, and I think what our concerns are, and if they can resolve that, then I don't think we need to see it again.
Right. Okay. Okay, so thanks very much, everyone. Do we have any other business, Anthony?
Nick, was there one project that we were going to give an update on tonight? Do you have that? Where'd Nick go?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm still here. Yeah, hang on.
I think the plan was to show you an update from one of the past projects that just about a week ago provided us a revision based on the comments that were made. And I think we were going to just show you a quick update on what that was turning out to be.
Okay.
Give me one moment, guys. Of course.
Or is this a separate project, or is this?
Nope, this isn't a project review. We were just going to show you. We had received an updated design proposal based on the comments from the DAP meeting that they had, and we thought we would just show you where they were headed in this meeting, just as a quick update.
Do the rest of them need to stay on?
Nope, this design team can leave. This is really just for the panel. This is just other information for the panel.
I just wanted clarification. That's all.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. Bear with me.
All right.
Having a problem with my email.
Sorry, Ashley, is that right?
Yes, I should have mentioned before. So Ashley Barbagallo is a new staff member in the Division of Land Development. She is our new planning technician. So she may be helping out with the administrative side of the DAP in a similar way to Melissa had done beforehand. So you may have seen, I don't know if you recall Melissa sometimes joined our meetings, but she's one of our new staff members. Yep, and we're super excited to have her on board.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
So
We're
Nick, are you gonna be able to pull it up? I was
We're
gonna
good.
give a quick intro to what the project was.
Yeah, it's. Gosh darn it! I had it flagged in an email, and now I can't find it.
Show it to us next time.
Yeah, we do
do
have one tentative item, I think, getting ready for DAP, don't we, Nick? Or do we have a project coming up for the next meeting?
Yeah, I had a design team ask me if I would reserve the 8th, but I have not received the submission yet for it. I'm still waiting to see if and when we get the submission. Sorry, the project was a site redesign for Route 1. Just empty lot.
Well, we don't have the whole board on here anyway, so it's not that critical. But if Anthony, you want to just like briefly go over it without having something to look at, or do we need to look at it?
Yeah, it was gonna be more helpful to show you. This was, if you recall, the Station Overlook project. Do you remember this project where there were two buildings along Corridor Road, Junction Drive and Dorsey Run?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and there were a lot of conversations about essentially reorganizing or streamlining.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the center, to avoid all of the multiple conflicts that were going to occur. So what the team has proposed to us is essentially consolidating. The entrance piece remains the same here, but they create almost just like a street that comes through to get to the garage. There's a consolidated sort of parking court along the front, and then all of this back area becomes the pedestrian connection and pedestrian space. So it just simplifies the approach between the buildings in a way that I think better meets the conversation and the intention, as opposed to having sort of the two-way innocuous turnaround piece. So that's what we were going to sort of show you a quick update.
got
Oh, you do have it.
I got it. Yeah, it wasn't downloading. Let me try and share this right now.
So it's very early on. Like I said, I think they just sent it back to us last week, but I thought, oh, good timing. We can show you that they're making some updates to meet the comments.
So you were just showing the original design, right?
Yeah,
That was the original.
Okay.
And then here's what they're working towards is just more of an organized street and drop off and sort of loading, unloading area, and then consolidated parking and really cleaning up and simplifying the pedestrian piece. And this rain garden pedestrian network then connects to the back amenity area towards the site.
Yeah. I'm glad that they closed off the last two parking spaces, because that's where deliveries and stuff, that's where they're going to park. So I kind of like that. I wish there was a little bit of a T there on the end. So they can back up and go toward, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Where those highlighted spaces are, or the block.
Yeah. So if there was a little bump out right there, so it'd be easier for those people making deliveries to back up and get back out.
Yeah, we thought about asking them to revise the curb and gutter and putting landscape in there so it does function more like a T as opposed to just blocking off spaces.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I see why you did it then. Okay.
They did simplify the mass of, asphalt that they had, shown previously. It was kind of like an extra wide, vehicular circle that they had, in the middle of the site. This seems a lot more straightforward, a lot more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, as long as it's planted nicely, the rain garden is truly an amenity, because the advantage of the other plan was I was envisioning that as like specialty pavement, and it was a true kind of courtyard type of approach. And this still can work, but it needs to have that specialty pavements and stuff, and trees and benches and things to really make that a unifying green space.
Yes. Yep.
One thing's for sure, this is a big improvement from what we had before, traffic wise.
Yeah, traffic wise it is. Yes.
Cool. Great. Well, yeah, that was, like I said, it came in and we thought we're having this meeting. We should give you a quick little update. So we are just beginning to reconnect with the team as they develop this idea further. So some more to come, but yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the only update we had, Nick, right?
That was the most recent one. Yeah.
I like seeing them because it gives us confidence that we're actually doing something good and that people value, with the comments.
I promise you are. It takes time.
I know.
Like the project we just saw has not even begun the conditional use process yet, and so it'll be a significant amount of time before we start getting that in for review. So I promise it's not all lost. We keep the notes. We have the documents. We push back on it. So
yeah, I'm still waiting for that Popeyes fried chicken in Ellicott City. So.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
All right.
What I'll do is tomorrow I'll forward the landscape plan for Paddock Point. I pulled the file up while you guys were discussing it. It's super large. I'll separate out the landscape sheets and send them to you.
Okay.
There were no elms provided.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of street trees and stuff, and they all came off our native species list, but yeah, no elms.
Okay.
I'll separate those and send them to you. It's kind of because that'll kind of give you guys really an in-depth idea of exactly the route they're taking.
Are hybrid elms that work.
Are there? It's
some new ones, yeah.
Okay. Maybe
I put them down in Otterbein 30 years ago, and they're still thriving.
Oh, okay.
All right, Bob, you want to close the meeting out?
Okay. Do we have any other issues or things to cover?
Nope.
Then we're adjourned.
All right,
Great
everyone.
night, everybody.
Good to
Thanks,
see you all.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Bye.
good night.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Ashley.